everyone, welcome. My name is Dr. Chelsea Roshad. I'm the head neuroscientist and sleep expert at Wesper. Today's webinar is all about sleep and mental health. Specifically, we're going to talk about why sleep is so integral to maintaining good mental health, but we're going to also talk about how mental health itself can impact sleep. Then I'm going to go into signs that your mental health is declining, and maybe you want to assess why that is. Could it be because you're sleeping poorly? There's a lot of reasons mental health declines, but maybe you're somebody who has been sleeping poorly for a really long time. So what are the signs that your poor sleep might be affecting your mental health? And then we're going to talk about what you should do. So, if you have been sleeping poorly for a really long time and your mental health is starting to decline, what proactive steps you can take to make sure that you get on top of both your sleep and your mental health so that it doesn't become more of a problem. Okay, let's get started. So, it's probably not much of a secret or a surprise that your sleep quality can, in fact, affect your mental well-being and mental health. So why is that? Why does sleep make us so sensitive to mood issues and mental health disorders? Well, for so many different reasons. So first of all, humans need at least 7 to 9 hours of high quality sleep per night to maintain all aspects of our health. So not just our mental health, but our physical health, our emotional health, our ability to stay healthy, our ability to repair our bodies, our ability to fight off infections, and just our ability to be successful during the day and well during the day. So sleep is very, very important for maintaining the health of the brain specifically. So we know from decades of clinical research that sleep does so many important jobs in the brain that we're not even aware are happening. So let's talk about some of those jobs. So first and foremost, sleep repairs damage all over the body. But most importantly, one would argue, is the damage that happens in the brain. Because the brain runs everything, right? The brain is the boss of the rest of the body. So when the brain is affected, the whole body is affected. So when we sleep, our tissues and our cells all get repaired. So all that damage or toxins that builds up, our little machinery goes through our body and fixes all that damage. That includes the cells in our brain. And the cells in our brain, specifically the neurons, are absolutely vital to keeping the brain functioning, healthy, and happy. So when we're not sleeping properly, specifically when we're not in a deep sleep, we are not repairing all of that damage, and that can accumulate over time and cause problems with things like your brain function, your cognition, how different areas of the brain works, how different areas of the brain communicates. And over the long term, that can lead to problems with cognition and mental health. So that's one. Number two is that our brain actually cleans itself during sleep. And this is kind of an interesting thing. We've only known about this for about the past 15 or so years. But when we shut our eyes and go to sleep and we enter deep sleep, our brain turns on its very own sewer system and flushes out toxins and particles from our brain that accumulate during the day. So when we're awake, our brain uses massive amounts of energy, more energy than any other part of the body. And when we use energy, there's a lot of chemical reactions happening, and a byproduct of those chemical reactions is waste accumulation. So we create a lot of waste. And these can be metabolic waste, proteins, things like that, and they accumulate in the brain and they kind of gunk up the system, right? So imagine, trying to walk through a dirty room, right? If there's things all over the floor, it's going to be very inefficient to actually walk through the room. Just like when there's a bunch of gunk in the brain, the neurons that communicate, the cells that communicate and make the brain worse, are going to become less efficient. So that all needs to get cleaned at night. So when we're not sleeping properly, all that gunk builds up and accumulates, and that can cause cognitive issues, and it can also cause issues with our mental health. One of the most important things sleep does to our brains that is related to mental health is sleep helps to strengthen, prepare, and fix the areas of our brain that regulate emotion and respond to stress. So every time you go to bed, our brain goes to work and making sure that those areas of the brain are nice and healthy and that they are able to respond to stress and problems and produce all the neurochemicals we need to maintain well-being and happiness. That is all taken care of, managed, and kept healthy. So even more specifically, the areas of the brain that deals with trauma and stress, it gets primed to deal with problems that are already happening in your life. So let's give you a quick example. Let's say you are a student and it's midterms and you're super stressed out, and life is getting really crazy and you're having a hard time studying and you have all of these other priorities and it's really hard to deal with. When we sleep at night, specifically when we go into REM sleep, we both dream, which dreams are very emotional, and we also activate those areas of the brain. So the running theory, the running hypothesis, is that by activating those areas of the brain and having very emotional dreams at night, essentially is like a little mini therapy session for our brain. It helps our brain to approach those scenarios so that we can deal with them in our waking life a little bit better than we're capable of without sleep. So when sleep doesn't happen, when you're not getting that little mini therapy session and those areas of the brain are not maintained, your ability to deal with those stressors is diminished. I'm sure many of you have noticed that when you're chronically sleep deprived, you're a lot moodier, you're a lot more irritable, maybe you feel sadder than usual. It's because those areas of the brain are just not functioning very properly. And you're a lot more easily triggered by things in your environment. So getting good quality sleep is so important for maintaining mental health. And all of these factors and more, there's so many other things that happen during sleep, like hormone release, immune system priming, so many other things. But all of these factors can increase your risk of developing mood issues or developing full-blown mental health disorders. We know specifically that your risk for things like depression and anxiety are increased, but we also know that if you have an existing mental health condition, that not sleeping properly can make those mental health conditions worse. Now, on the opposite side of things, mental health conditions can also make your sleep worse. So it is circular, right? So sleep can make mental health worse and mental health can make sleep worse. So when you're not ahead of your sleep issues, these things can snowball out of control and get worse and worse and worse until you need medical intervention to help you to get back to a good place. So we know that mental health affects sleep for a variety of reasons. One is that, mental health causes a lot of anxiety, and anxiety is a sleep killer. Anxiety and stress kill sleep. Anxiety and stress raise your risk for things like insomnia, nightmares, a whole variety of sleep issues. We know that highly stressed people sleep less in general, but we also know that highly stressed people have issues falling asleep and also maintaining sleep, or a combination of both. So all that stress is rolling around in your body, it's raising your stress hormones, it's making it really difficult to sleep. And then when it's really difficult to sleep because you're already stressed and you've got mental health issues, you're gonna become sleep deprived. And when you start to become sleep deprived over a long period of time, that's gonna make your mental health worse. So like I said, it snowballs. So the goal is to get ahead of your sleep and your mental health before it becomes an out of control problem. Okay? So now that we know all about why sleep can affect mental health, let's talk about some signs of mental health, some of the obvious signs and some of the not so obvious signs, so that you know what to look out for. This is especially important if you are having issues with sleep, to pay really close attention to whether your mental health starts to decline, because like I said, once the mental health starts to decline, the sleep is going to get worse, and then the mental health is going to get worse, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. So signs your mental health is declining. The obvious ones are maybe you're more moody or irritable than usual. Maybe things bother you more than they used to. Maybe you're finding you're having more stress responses to things. So, a simple task might seem harder than usual for you. Maybe your level of happiness or contentment has just declined slightly. Maybe you're starting to feel burned out at work, or maybe things that you used to love don't interest you anymore. So those are some of the early subtle signs. Other signs would be like your motivation declines. So you find it really hard to muster the motivation to do anything really. It will start with big tasks like work tasks or things that are hard to do. Slowly it will evolve to lacking the motivation to do things that most people would consider easy. Maybe like making a meal for yourself, or brushing your teeth, or taking a shower, or even something like getting out of bed. So all those things are important to pay attention to. Next is just going to be a decline in sleep. So your sleep was already bad before, maybe it's starting to get worse. That's a pretty good indicator that your mental health is sleeping, because like I said before, stress, anxiety, and depression are sleep killers. Conversely, maybe you're sleeping a lot more than you were previously. So depression specifically can go one of two ways. Most people who are depressed will either have issues sleeping, so they might have issues with insomnia, but a lot of people with depression also start to sleep too much. They might feel so chronically tired that they have to sleep longer hours. Maybe they find it harder to get out of bed. Maybe they find they're napping more than usual. There's a wide variety of reasons for that, but really any change to your typical sleep function would be a good indicator that maybe your mental health is declining. Okay? Some other symptoms would be like you start to feel slower than usual. Maybe you move slower than usual. Maybe you speak slower than usual. Maybe the world around you just feels like it's slowed down. Now, mental health disorders, especially depression, are a brain suppressant. So not only does it depress your mood, but it also depresses a lot of your other functions. So your physical functions, your eating might change because your eating slows down, or maybe you're starting to eat more. So really any change that looks like it's slowing down, or it can also increase for some people. Okay. For people who are anxious or have anxiety, maybe you're starting to have anxiety attacks. Maybe you're starting to have a really high heart rate. Maybe you're starting to get panic attacks. Maybe you start to sweat or feel faint. Maybe you start to shut down when things get hard. That would all be an indicator of, anxiety. And then finally, just, feeling hopeless or sad all the time, or just feeling like nothing is worth it anymore. Those are all signs that you're slipping deep into a mental health issue. So it's really important to watch out for the early signs, but also make sure that you're watching out for the late signs, or the signs that you're full blown into a mental illness. Okay. So where do you go from here? Let's say that your poor sleep has ultimately started to affect your mental health, or your poor mental health has started to affect your sleep. What are the steps that you should be taking immediately to address this problem to ensure that it doesn't get worse? Well, if you've been a poor sleeper and you are sleep deprived and that has resulted in a decline in your mental health, the first thing is to have a big hard look at your sleep and see if there's anything you can do to overhaul your sleep quality. So you're gonna wanna pay attention to whether you are getting sufficient total sleep time. So that's not the time you spend in bed. That's the time in bed that you're actually asleep. Adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep at night. So if you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep at night, you need to assess why that is. Are you not getting enough sleep at night because you're not allowing yourself to get enough sleep at night? Maybe you're only in bed for 7 hours, but that doesn't mean you're actually asleep for 7 hours. Maybe you need to extend your time in bed by half an hour to ensure that you're actually getting enough sleep time. Maybe you're suffering with something like insomnia, or you're waking up frequently at night. And even though you're spending enough time in bed, that's taking away from your total sleep time. Maybe your sleep is not actually high quality sleep. So maybe you're getting a lot of light sleep, but you're not getting a lot of deep restorative sleep. So we're looking at sleep accumulation. Next is going to be sleep timing, which is a little bit different than sleep duration or total sleep time. Sleep timing is actually looking at the time of day that you are going to sleep. So sleep is controlled by two different aspects of our brain. One is our sleep debt accumulation, which is how much sleep we're actually getting, and the other is our circadian rhythm. Our circadian rhythm is the 24-hour biological clock that is in our brain that dictates when we're supposed to be awake and when we're supposed to be asleep. This is genetically hardwired in us all, and it's all a little bit different, okay? So everyone has what we call a chronotype, and this is the genetic time that is dictated by our circadian rhythm. So some people are morning people, they go to bed super early, they get up super early, and that's when they feel most refreshed and well rested. Some people are night people, they go to bed late and they get up super late, and that is when they feel most refreshed. So not only do you have to figure out how much sleep you're actually getting, you have to make sure that you're doing it at the correct time of night. Because if you are a morning person, but you're not going to bed until 2 in the morning and you're not waking up until 9 in the morning or 10 in the morning, that's a big problem, because your circadian rhythm's always going to try to push you back to your normal chronotype. So even if you're getting 8 hours of sleep per night, if your circadian rhythm is always fighting against, the current time you're going to bed, you're still not going to feel refreshed. And that in itself can really affect your mental health. So figuring out your sleep timing is also extremely important. If you're somebody who works in shifts, or if you have no choice but to stick to a certain time, there are techniques you can use to help reduce the impact that has on your circadian rhythm. That is for another webinar completely. We can get into that at another time. Definitely look up resources online for how to handle shift work, what you can do to improve the impact it has on your circadian rhythm. But again, I'll try to cover it in another webinar. Okay, and third is going to be sleep quality. So your sleep time and your sleep duration mean absolutely nothing if you have poor sleep quality. What do I mean by sleep quality? I mean, when you go to bed, it doesn't take you very long to fall asleep. And when you fall asleep, you remain mostly asleep throughout the night. You might wake up once or twice during the day or night. Maybe you wake up once to go to the bathroom, but when you get back in bed, you fall asleep quickly. Sleep quality also means that you've been able to move through all of your sleep stages. So non-REM 1, non-REM 2, non-REM 3, and REM sleep efficiently. And you're not spending too much time in one sleep stage or too little time in another, okay? So it's not just about how long you sleep, it's how your brain utilizes that sleep, okay? So if it takes you a really long time to fall asleep, so 30 minutes or more, or if you're waking up frequently during the night, maybe you find it difficult to fall back to sleep when you're waking up, or maybe you just wake up too early. Maybe you wake up a whole hour before your alarm goes off. That's a good indicator that your sleep quality is not great and you need to address that. So how do you improve sleep quality? Well, first you gotta assess your sleep hygiene. I talked all about sleep hygiene in a previous video. Please go check it out. It will give you a wealth of information, but just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, sleep hygiene, these are just the habits that you do throughout the day that will affect your sleep. So things like drinking caffeine or exercising or maintaining a comfortable bedroom or, having a sleep routine, things like that. You need to get on top of those things. Second, you need to get assessed for a sleep disorder if this is a long chronic problem for you that is not easily fixed, okay? So if you've been dealing with poor sleep quality for a really long time, maybe 6 months, longer than that, most people who have poor sleep quality have been dealing with this for a year. It is absolutely essential that you are assessed for sleep disorders. Some disorders are very common. Insomnia, for instance, most of us will experience at one point or another. Another common sleep disorder would be something like sleep apnea. About 20% of the population has sleep apnea. Some others would be like restless leg syndrome, narcolepsy. There's over 80 sleep disorders. So ensuring that you actually get assessed and tested for those sleep disorders. Hopefully those are ruled out for you, but if they're not, if you're found to have a sleep disorder, treating that sleep disorder is gonna automatically improve your sleep quality, okay? So sleep hygiene assessment, making sure you're actually getting enough sleep time, assessing for sleep disorders, make sure the timing of your sleep is right, and making sure you're actually getting 7 to 9 hours is absolutely essential. Okay, next, and I recommend this in combination with improving your sleep, is if you suspect that you have a mental health issue, talk to your doctor, okay? Don't wait on it because mental health issues tend to snowball out of control and get worse over time. So speak to your doctor, get assessed. They can get you on medications if needed. They can get you into therapy if needed. The point is the medical system is there to help you, and you want to be able to get on top of your mental health before it declines past the point of no return. And finally is doing things for you, doing self-love, making sure that you're doing activities that are kind and gentle for you, doing things that you enjoy, seeing friends, doing hobbies, doing things in your day that uplift you and make you feel good. So setting time aside to do those things is absolutely essential for maintaining mental health. Okay guys, I think this has come to the end of my webinar on sleep and mental health. I hope you took away some excellent information. Again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me at chelsea@wesper.co. There's a wealth of resources online about mental health and sleep. Again, if you are more interested in this, I can send you more information as well. So thank you so much for joining. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Take care. Good luck with your sleep.